Welcome to Gray Areas for February 27th, 2024. This is episode 612. I'm going to just make sure that Doug can hear us and that we are live. I know my microphone is too high. I'm tweaking that. Got a lot of things that have changed since last week, and we'll talk about that in a moment.
We
killed Dave,
We've
actually.
replaced Dave with a chair, and I think it's going to make the banter a lot more interesting. I think Dave is reading. Chris is reading the comments.
Yeah, there's comments. I mean,
But,
look, this is back now. Finally, look, there's that. That's working this week. We'll see what else is working or not working this week. Josh says,
Dave.
Cody's arm is the length of Sephiroth's sword. How interesting. Yes, you can see him reaching through Sean.
You know, this actually is really cool when
I
it looks
am
like this.
Eric.
Come to think of it.
It's a magic trick. So I guess let me know how everybody's relative volume is. If there's an echo, if you can hear it, headphones would help. I can't really have a chance to monitor that all live, and I didn't have a chance to test it because Dave wasn't on anyways.
The new intro is just the gift that keeps giving, because I notice something new every time. Cody, I'm always so taken by the dogs, but there's also one where you're just in the studio, because that's like the only photos we have of you. It's like very meta. You're like, for the intro, but you're in the studio that we're introing you for.
I'm sorry.
It's very interesting.
I can donate photos to the thing, but he already made it.
It's too late now. And also, I'm just like in a stream somewhere. I'm just like standing in a stream. It's great. I like it.
You have no idea where that came from?
No. I don't remember. I mean, I've been to streams. I'm not saying. Like,
I mean, obviously you had.
I can't I can't reconcile this reality because I've never been to a stream. Like, that's not what's happening. But I don't know when or.
I feel like it'd be really jarring if there was a photo of you in a stream. You're like, I've never been in
I've
water
never
in my
even
entire
visited
life.
a stream. I've never hardly been outside. Yeah, that would be weird. Chris is louder than Cody and Sean. Well, that's very strange.
Don't worry, we'll be louder. We can just
Wait,
start
we
yelling.
can try. We can scream. We haven't gotten into a debate yet. Maybe that's the.
Yeah, and I haven't talked for a minute, but we'll see. I think I fixed it. I don't know. We're trying to fix it on the fly. So basically, brand new computer. Only the graphics card is the same. And Doug and I worked a lot over the weekend, primarily Doug, just to try and get things up and running. There are still some issues. Every now and then the soundboard just decides it's going to drop completely. So we're keeping an eye out for that. We don't want that to happen in this or the NBA that's coming up. We're playing our Game 7 tonight. That's a spoiler for anybody who hasn't watched on YouTube yet, because Game 6 will post this weekend. But you know what's going to happen. It's the Bucks. But no Dave yet. He's going to try and join when he gets his kid to bed. So we're just going to jump in without him. So I guess... what's the headline you think he cares the least about? Probably Pokemon, right?
Probably Pokemon.
Yeah, probably Pokemon.
So, I mean, I want to try to be fair to him about it, so we'll save the ones about, like, food and the economy, the things that are, like...
Does he like Wendy's, though? Or does he get into say Wendy's sucks anyways and be negative about it?
I don't think that the commentary on that one is relative to how much one likes or dislikes Wendy's, so much as it is consumer pricing and the ruination of the value menu and stuff like that.
Mm.
Look at Dave's here.
So that's very nice. There's more charisma in that photo than Dave has normally. So I did a weird thing where I was like, oh, the headlines. What I'm going to do is just not read them, react to them on the show, and that'll be better. And then like 3 minutes before the show started, I was like, oh, wait. I did that for a while, and then it was much better when I actually read the headline and kind of prepared my thoughts. So that's going to be interesting. But Cody, your tour of the show from the beginning, it continues now. This is how we used to do things.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
Am I supposed to be like caught off guard that when you talk about news headlines like any
No,
like,
I mean
regular
you
show
could
we're talking
like
about?
maybe like
It's a really creative concept.
you can maybe like say thank you, like thanks for giving.
Thank
me this
you
tour.
for letting me experience everything and doing so with one less Dave around as well, I guess.
We did that for you too. We told Dave to please come late.
Well, this is going to be the most difficult one to talk about if you haven't seen it, because this was the Pokemon Presents this morning. And among the news in that, I guess I can give you somewhat of a summary of, is that it looks like there's going to be a sequel to Arceus set in the world from X and Y.
Yeah, I know. I mean, look, it's video games. I'm going to know it anyways. I thought what was interesting was how much of the news was no news. That was what
there's no release this year, basically.
The most appealing to me was I read somebody talk about like they just did this in response to Power World, even though they had like not very much to announce. There's like a Pokemon card game. Right? That is a thing.
A new TCG, yeah. And I find that comment to be hilarious because they do one of these every year on this day.
Well, right.
So, whatever Power Word fan has got to do to make themselves feel better.
The Pokemon ZA, which is a sequel to a game I didn't care about to begin with. So
Yeah,
I can't imagine getting excited for the sequel.
It's
but
going to follow the same. You can't battle. It's just going to be in like
I
you're
would
going to roam
think
around.
so.
There wasn't a lot of information from the game anyway. It didn't seem like. So I'm like, I don't know that I have any reaction to that. Like, which is really counterproductive to this podcast and this headline. But I'm like, I don't really have a reaction other than I guess I'm sad that there's not going to be a release this year, while balancing the point that you guys have all made of they keep rushing games and they suck.
No.
And then me being such a fucking simpleton of like, yeah, but I also just want to have a remake of a game that I can go play through, because I kept reading people trying to pitch the idea of doing a Let's Go series of Gold and Silver. And while paying $60 or $70 for that sounds kind of shitty because I don't want to pay that much money for it, I would also play the shit out of it, as when we broke down Pokemon, we all explained that Gold and Silver was basically like the heyday that we all loved.
Yeah,
so
but it's
very
Let's
much.
Go Pokemon, so
Yeah,
it's gonna like ruin it anyway. I would love the Black and White remake that I have to think is gonna happen
At some point.
at some point. Yeah, I mean, I was like,
It's the next one.
Yeah,
But I'm also glad we didn't see a trailer for it today, if I'm being honest, just
Yeah.
because even though a decent amount of time has passed since Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, to the earlier point you both have mentioned already, like we've talked about, it's probably time to slow down a bit, or at the very least, slow down until quality improves, and then maybe you look to ramp it back up. But
I was in Pokemon Legends though is like the first one. There's only one, so I'm trying to like take all this away from it. It was like in the far past.
Mhm.
But now this one is like, is it in the like maybe far future?
Yeah, so I'm like, because it's in the redevelopment of the world there, so I'm like, well, Pokemon battling exists in the fucking world, like the storyline you've created here. Like, I understand why you couldn't battle in what you did with that old one, because that technology and all that shit didn't exist yet. It was like a prequel to every Pokemon game I ever made. Now I'm like, well, the timeline of this, are you just going to do a Legends version that is almost a weird backwards like remake of this, but not calling it a remake and advancing it in a world you've already established? I don't really know.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm going to reserve judgment till I hear more of it, because if I can actually battle and there's some semblance of like the regular game function, I'll play it.
Yeah.
I tried the other Legends game and I'm like, this is just not for me. I wasted my money on it. That's a bummer.
I know. And I don't know. Maybe they say, well, that's Legends, that we're doing a different thing. You don't get to fight. And which I say, that's great. And there are fans of it. There are people that like the game.
a lot.
I'm just not one of them.
Me neither.
And
I mean, it literally feels like a really, really advanced version of fucking Pokemon Go that I can play on my game for free and run around just catching.
yeah,
kind
like,
of.
That's
Yeah.
like kind of.
I just,
A really, really advanced version of Pokemon.
yeah, I know.
Go
There's
is
way
what
more
I'll
to it, but I'm
take.
like, I just go around catching shit over and over again. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, but there's like a whole thing to it. But yeah, when you boil it down, that's kind of what it is. And I'm not arguing with you. I don't like it. And then you had new raids in Violet and Sapphire, in Violet and fucking what's the other one? Scarlet. Thank you. And I don't care because I didn't like the base
Sapphire.
game. It was a good base game that I really, really liked. I'd probably be excited, but like I'm not.
And the raids were fun for a while. It's fine to have the 3 Kanto starters because it means you can get them in the game if you successfully complete the raid. But I don't know if it had the staying power for a year plus of like hanging around. It was, I mean, Nick and I were doing some for a while. I was doing some with his kids. Like again, for a few weeks, seeing what was cool and new coming out and fighting a giant version of them, strategizing was neat. I don't really have any desire to go back to it at all.
I think I care about it within like in the progression of me actively playing the game, but I've already played the game and basically finished it. I'm like, I don't really revisit these a whole lot.
I mean, like I'll be excited. Look, as of right now, today, I'm still most excited for Pal World. I'm not saying I think the next version of Pokemon should bring guns into it or like anything crazy. But this is a good break. This is honestly, I'm thankful for this break because I was getting burned out and a very subpar release on the last version was not helping. So just taking a break, not even with the remakes to fill the gap. I'm hoping, I'll be kind of excited to get into the next one.
Well, that's the one thing that Dave didn't care about, but he seems to be nowhere close. So we're going to move on to things he does care about because, I mean, I can only do so much.
Dave just texted us saying he's not able to get on.
I know. That's what I'm referring to.
Now he said he's not able to get on or yet? Like, period?
It was now, period, sorry.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll figure out NBA later then. We're doing it live.
Well, he should be able to do NBA either way. That was his, because then, like, Courtney will be home. So even if he can't get kids to bed or whatever, he should have backup. That was the case last week, and then he ended up making it on time. But
is Courtney a stay-at-home wife or not? I'm just kidding. That's fine. All right. Let's go to the next thing.
Boo Dave Boo says Doug, and that is correct, yes. the news that happened today, there was actually multiple stories that came across today, and the impetus for doing headlines was these two in particular coming up because they were both, about food and the economy and just the technology and all of that, and kind of wrapped into one thing. Wendy's apparently announced today that they're looking to do a digital menu that has surge-based pricing, which is essentially the model that, say, Uber uses, so that if it's in peak traffic hours and there's a lot of demand, the price you pay to get an Uber might be double, say, what it is during 3 a.m. time when there's no one on the streets and there's no demand. Well, now the same thing might be true for, your fries or your Frosties or your burgers or whatever the case might be. So now the question is this a good business model, or are we seeing the downfall of society?
I'm going to start with this.
Okay.
Give
me time to think.
There is one thing I care about when I get fast food, because I can find better food. I can make better food.
I really want to hear the one thing that you
The only thing I care about when I get fast food is consistency. I want the burger that I get there to taste like the burger I got there 3 weeks ago, over and over again. What I also want in consistency is to not pay all of a sudden $5 more for the same quality of a fucking burger I got that I'm only getting deliberately to eat quickly as possible.
So here's a question then. What if one leads to the other? So to get the consistency on the burger, by spacing out the pricing, it allows for hopefully less volume of peak hours, because people are like, well, I'm going to come a little bit later, right? And then that allows you to go, it not be so crazy, and they are more reliably able to get you that.
I actually think fast food's better when it's fucking busy, because the burger wasn't sitting there and I'm getting a better, fresher burger.
That can happen, yes.
I actually don't want to go to fast food places when it's slow, because, see, I'm a dick, and I deliberately go on the app and I customize my burger just for the sake of, I know they have to fucking make a fresh one if I take an item off or add an item to it. I've discovered this because I'm a fucking asshole. So I know how to get my food pretty fresh, specifically like for burgers. It's pretty easy to just be like, I want these added to it, or I don't want this sauce on it. So I don't want ketchup, even if I want it on it, but then they have to make me a new burger because they put ketchup on all the fucking basic burgers, right?
God, I hope someone from like Arby's is watching this and they're going to put you on a watch list.
Right, they're going to, exactly. And so I'm like, I don't want to show up to Wendy's and all of a sudden my fucking 4 for $4, which is now $5, so it's 4 for $5, is now $8.50 because it's fucking busy.
If I'm gonna fucking con Wendy's for a burger, I want a fucking fresh burger.
Look, Sean, just because I beat capitalism and I find ways to make capitalism work for me,
you do.
I'm not gonna get mad. Again, I cheat the system with fucking free subscriptions to shit and cheap. That's fine. I have to work my ass off to find a way to beat capitalism because the society's gonna fucking crumble in our post-capitalism or late-stage capitalism society.
I like that perspective. You're the hero.
I am the fucking hero in this. Absolutely. And I should fucking do a seminar explaining how to fuck over companies
you should do a
who
TED Talk.
fuck us over.
You can do like the Wolves of Wall Street thing that Leo's doing at the end of the movie.
Great.
And just go like talk to people like how to let me Sonic experience. That is true. Yeah. So you going when it's slow, sometimes you can get cold. Sonic does a pretty good job though. We'll most of the time we're gonna make it when you order it, but
I know that's hit or miss for some of them, but Wendy's, I think, needs to just settle and with its place as being a number 2 or number 3 restaurant and stop trying to desperately fucking come up with ideas. Like, at some point, maybe just if your profits are flat, your profits are fucking flat and shut the fuck up. Like, it's not that you don't have to find some new innovative way to make more money so your fucking CEO can get a bigger fucking bonus and fuck over all the regular people who are poor. And we're going to get to poor people eating in 5 more minutes after this. It's just fucking agitating. I mean, Wendy's, I'm probably even more bitter because Wendy's is the fast food place I like the most. And if they try and pull this shit, I'm not going to go there anymore. I'll just stop going there completely because that's the best way we can make this statement is like, you don't go, don't be like, oh, this fucking sucks, and then still go there because they're not going to learn anything. McDonald's is starting to struggle with this because it jacked its prices up, and apparently its fucking earnings plummeted. So they're like, oh, fuck, we probably have to pull back pricing.
Well, here's the thing. One of the glib comments that you saw on Twitter was, well, is there going to be like on-demand pay for workers so that when there are peak hours and everyone has to bust their ass because the drive-thru is cranking, are they going to get paid more for those times than
exactly.
when it's 11:55 at night and you have the one high-ass customer coming through for 64 tacos at Jack in the Box? Is there going to be a difference there? Now, of course, that's being tongue-in-cheek and not serious, and yet it's also sort of an actual question, right? Because if the workers aren't going to see anything out of this, and this is only going to translate to the profits that Cody alluded to, then yeah, I don't see why anybody shouldn't be against this idea. Especially, to me, the biggest thing was you saw the price tag for it. It's like, all right, we're going to invest $20 million in these adaptive like price boards and video screens. It's like, so you're anticipating this making more than $20 million then, clearly, to offset that cost. So where's that money coming from? Is it me? Not me specifically. I don't go to Wendy's anymore, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but I think the moral of the story is capitalism wins, because if you go back to Netflix and what we were along with everybody of this is gonna be the end of Netflix. I mean, how can they cut down on passwords and not have repercussions? And there were no repercussions, and their stock is now through the roof again, and they're doing really, really well.
I don't watch Netflix anymore.
I mean, good for you, you know. But,
me neither, but we're anecdotal apparently.
Yeah,
I mean, again, I know I'm in the minority of most of these things, and people just go along. Everyone whines about things for a little bit and then goes along with life, and I'm like, boy, that the more times you've gone along with things is kind of why we're at.
Yeah,
like if I'm
exactly.
being like really like socialist, fucking super liberal, it's like we're kind of in this place because everyone was just like, yeah, man, it's all good. I'm gonna get fucked over, and I'll just keep taking it. Maybe at a certain point you have to stop getting fucked. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's exactly. Think of the shareholders.
Yeah, well, exactly.
I mean, I'm a shareholder of McDonald's, and I would be pissed if McDonald's
and
did
Netflix is probably like, you know what, we know that there's going to be less viewers, and we accept that.
Yeah.
But we're going to make the money based on the people who have decided, well, I guess I need to do an account.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you jack things up by X amount, and then you sell less X units, but you're still maintaining the profit margin, and you're now doing less effort and work and paying people less to produce less, jack up prices, sell less, but then the margin still hits higher, you're encouraged to have less fucking customers.
I won't talk about this in super detail, but I at least can kind of, given that we have new ownership. That's essentially the model of a lot of newspapers across the country. It's, okay, we're going to raise subscriptions 40%, and if we lose 10% of our base, well, we're still making more money than we were before, and we kind of want to drive everybody digital anyways, so it's kind of a win-win, right? Like, we're just going to bleed everybody dry who is a subscriber, and then we'll just, just accept the fact that some will disappear, and some will convert to digital where we make less money. But to Cody's point, it's the same idea. It's acceptable loss because we make up more money in this regard, and maybe there are other benefits too.
And, even with Netflix, though, I think they're flirting with disaster. And I'll say flirting because there might not be a disaster, but when you start to narrow down your viewer base, like you're going to see short-term gains for sure, but
But yeah, if you lose 10% of your customer base, that 10% of your customer base of a smaller base is a bigger hit.
Yeah.
I'm really curious if these prices are going to affect like the app as well. Like, do I go on the app and as I'm trying to check out, it's just fucking changing over and over again? Like, it's like, oh, now it's 10 cents more. Oh, now it's 15 cents left. Do I need to hit the button? Like, it's like when I fucking do cash outs on sports betting apps. Yeah. I'm like sitting there doing like, I'm going to wait till the perfect time to hit the sell button. Or the cash out button. I'm like, is it going to be the same thing? Or is if I just go on the fucking app, which I've discovered hilariously in Flagstaff more than anything, apps prices for fast food are cheaper than the actual in-store. Because the app's price reflects what the national price is a lot of the time and not what the actual local price of Flagstaff is. So I don't fucking ever order. Again. I don't ever order inside of a restaurant anymore. I only order on all their apps.
I can't wait until Netflix gets to like there's only 500 people who can afford it. Across the world, and like it's like this elite thing now, and they're the only ones getting Stranger Things season 8 or whatever.
What a great topic of conversation that'll be on X one day. There's the only 500 users and they're all just on X.
Right. But they have some content streamed directly to them because Elon cried about it.
Exactly.
Don't put it on other streaming platforms. Don't upload your video to YouTube. Post it directly to X because X is such a good video platform.
How much would I pay to be one of the only people, like a certain percentage, who have seen a really great TV show?
I've thought about this before. I've like, isn't the idea of TV and movies to experience it with other people and trying to exclusive idiot or whatever. Like, well, that you're just not. It's not the premise of what the fuck
but imagine,
art was created for.
I was like, Cody, have you seen this hot new show on Netflix? And you're like, no. I'm like, no. Oh, that's too bad for you. It was amazing. It would change your life. But
there's one thing I watch on Netflix and I just wait till it's out and I steal a password.
I guess you can't afford Netflix.
I was going to say, between password stealing and pirating, I don't know that there's ever going to be a point where you reach that with a streaming service, because even though you may be one of the people who is the limited 500 who can officially watch it, best believe at least one of those 500 people is going to be somebody who puts it on, a torrent site, on Google Drive, on whatever.
It's your job, Sean, when you're the rich elite person.
Yeah, but like in the future, and it's kind of a tangent, but it's somewhat a serious point. Like they're just throwing the fucking book at anyone who pirates from here on out. As like that Bowser guy who like took the heat for doing all the Nintendo pirating. But you just do that to everybody.
Yeah, but better him than me.
Well, I mean, sure, but I'm
He
saying like
produced it and gave it to me.
eventually corporations, I think, are going to win everything. And
Well,
if
I mean,
you-
that's what capitalism is.
yeah, exactly. So you pirate, you're going away for the rest of your life. And you're like, but I stole like.
So you're saying when all the corporate streaming lobbyists say piracy is the death penalty, make it the death penalty, and the Supreme Court's like, you know what? I guess you're right. I mean, we have to listen to you.
Especially with those subscription prices.
I mean,
yeah.
fuck.
Yeah.
I look forward to that.
Do
Thanks.
you?
Thanks for our.
I don't think I do.
My poor children are going to be really fucked in this goddamn society.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's funny that every day brings us closer to like cyberpunk, you know, the cyberpunk, or even fucking like Running Man, like which is a much worse.
And then you say shit like that, and people are like, "No, you're just being hyperbolic." It's like, no, we're fucking not, because just look around, and I'm pretty sure every fucking point has been made for us. This is exactly where we're going.
Yeah.
Well, along those same lines, we've talked about this a couple times in the past, but the digitalization of media means that we're now losing media too.
Yeah, I mean, Sean and I were tangenting about that.
Television shows and movies and whatever that currently don't exist. I'm sure there's an archive of them somewhere. They could exist maybe if a streaming platform cared, but if I wanted to watch, I mentioned Stump the Schwab in the last game show because I made one of those games based off of it. That doesn't exist anywhere on the planet. There's a handful of episodes on YouTube, and that's about it. So it's like, well, what am I supposed to do what if I've paid for something and I no longer have access to it? And we've talked about that as a reality for years now, but now it's actually becoming more and more common. So, yeah, it feels like we're heading towards some kind of dystopia. Maybe not full-on cyberpunk, but there's going to be a breaking point eventually.
Yeah, man, all these new truths. Here's a fun piece of trivia for you. Chris is going to want to kill himself when I take another tangent, but Christopher Nolan, Cody, came out and said, you either live long enough, you die a hero, live long enough to see something as a villain.
Yeah.
He was like, I didn't want that line in the movie because I didn't really get it, and it wasn't my line, it was my brother's line. But I was like, yeah, I guess we can leave it in. Easily the most famous line of that movie, and he was like, I'm so glad I left it in because as time goes on, I didn't get it at first, and I see it all the time now in our world. Like, examples keep cropping up constantly. Yeah. So it's like, so all these like new truths, these like new realities, we're arriving at this sort of. I don't think it's gonna.
It'd be good if everyone wasn't so fucking greedy in this country. I mean, that's what it just kind of boils down to: is everyone needs to have as much money as possible for God only knows what fucking reason. You actually need. If you're the Windy CEO and you're like, this is a brilliant idea, so I can have a couple more $1 million bonuses. Like, why do you need a couple more $1 million? What the fuck's the point?
Yeah,
I would love to know.
It's always that. It's always like we gotta make more money.
I'm like,
more
again,
money.
People flatlining their. Again, I said it earlier, flatlining their profits, and it's just, our profits held steady for 3 years. I'm like, good, cool, that's great, grand.
Yeah, like no,
you're all your workers are making a living wage and this and that, and you don't live, like, great. Cool.
Even right now, like the Biden administration is trying to extol the virtues of the economy, and which has ticked up in several metrics over the last 12 to 18 months. But it's like, I don't care if the stock market continues to hit record highs. I didn't care when Trump was president, and I do not care when Biden is president.
It's not indicative of the regular fucking people, you jackass.
And even if I get to the point where I start to have stock or shares in something or whatever, it's still not like, well, okay, but I go to the grocery store and a bag of French fries that used to be $2 is now $5. So, like, do I really, like, if I want to get a dozen eggs, do I want to pay $7 for them? Am I supposed to feel better about the stock market being
Chris, inflation's under control.
$37K on the Dow Jones?
Chris, inflation's under control.
Yeah,
President Biden told me it's under control.
Come on, man.
Now, he hasn't come to Flagstaff, I don't think, so he's not really aware of where inflation hits in certain different places in different ways.
I don't care where you live. Inflation's fake. It's not real.
So anyways, that's the whole, it's the same thing like gas prices. People go, oh, this president's doing good on gas prices. This president's doing it. It's like, none of that matters. It's all part of a bigger system. And this is why, again, to go back to the cyberpunk example, that's why we want to have an uprising because, it's fine.
Speaking of corporations. Who are terrible.
Kellogg's was also in the news today.
Ooh.
Because their CEO, I think, was trying to say something well-meaning. I don't think there was malicious intent behind this. At best, viewed through the most generous lens, you could say this was tone deaf. But essentially mentioned today that, since people are spending more on groceries than they have in the past, I think percentage-wise it's the most in like 25 years or something. It's a pretty bad metric. That people should consider eating cereal for dinner as a family to help offset those rising costs and inflation. Now, of course, he's also the CEO of a cereal company, so there's a self-serving nature to this too. But that part would be relatively benign compared to the fact that it's essentially like, yeah, rather than tackle these problems systemically and fix the economy, maybe just stop having like nutrition for dinner and just have cereal. Now, he also mentioned fresh fruit along with cereal, but let's be honest, cereal's still garbage for you, so it's not going to help.
Do you want me to continue Cody's socialist corner here, or should I let
No,
someone
let's
go?
do it. But yeah, what do you got for us now? Is that why you're beating capitalism? Because you're a socialist?
Because capitalism turned me into a socialist in the last 5 years?
Shit.
Yeah, it fucking did, basically. Okay, let's just get the funniest point out of the way. I'm not sure there's any product that's risen more percentage-wise than fucking cereal, you motherfucking piece of shit. Because your goddamn cereal boxes are like $8, and they are worth $3. You fucking asshole.
And milk is also extremely expensive.
Exactly. Like, so, sure, you would save money over, I guess, going and getting, like, chicken or, like, pasta. I don't know. I mean, if I'm looking around to the cheapest thing to eat, I'm thinking, actually, pasta is probably the easiest way to eat really cheaply still. But to Chris's point of, he's not trying to sound like an asshole, except for every rich, mostly white male can't help but sound like a fucking asshole every time they open their mouths because they've never lived in the world of struggling to actually put food on the table. So his answer to Chris's point of like is, oh, just eat more of this product because it's cheap and you'll get by. I'm like, so then I'm going to do that. And then when I have diabetes, the government's going to be like, oh, also give me like $100,000 for all of your medical bills because you're dying now because you were poor and you ate shitty and we're not going to give you health insurance.
Yeah, also, and this is not like a huge deal, but like who's just you can't eat cereal by itself unless you're a crazy person. You got to get it with milk. So
Yes.
So that's a lot of milk if you're eating cereal for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And
to this point that on here is like, also cereal has done the whole shrinkflation thing where they're charging the same price and the boxes are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I'm like, I got 4 bowls of cereal out of my Captain Crunch. That's all I got out of there. Like, exactly. It's just like, so.
I mean, look, I like cereal.
Sure,
every once in a while, I will get like I remember I worked a double at a restaurant in Chicago, and I came home and I just bought a box of Golden Grams, and I ate the entire box of Golden Grams in one sitting, and that was really nice. But I wouldn't want to have to do that every meal, every day. And it was terrible for me too. It's not like it was good.
I mean, that's the dystopian future thing is where you just eat like because you're not eating for fun or to taste anything good. You're just like you're doing it only because you have to like actually survive and stay alive. And it's like, I mean, that's kind of where we're getting. We're gonna get to where all the rich people get to eat all the fancy food and all the poor people just need to eat whatever they can possibly eat. Some fucking Hunger Games shit where they're battling over goddamn bread. If I remember right.
And then the rich people are they taking the things to vomit up the food so they can eat more food.
Exactly. Just for pure gluttony. And I'm like, so is that where we're headed eventually? Is like you just want all the poor people to eat like cornflakes or I don't know, whatever Kellogg sells. I guess Special K obviously is the thing that they also sell. I'm like,
I was shocked. I was shocked that cereal was so bad for it because
it's
you grow up
you.
hearing like, oh, it's like a foundation of your health and like of your day, and it's so important. I was like, oh, cereal's great. And
sure, if you eat the things that are like the worst tasting ones.
No. I mean, I'm telling you, like
most of them were terrible.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch was like part of a their whole thing, part of a balanced breakfast.
Well, it's all you got the commercials for on Nickelodeon and Disney Channel.
Well, exactly. I was a stupid kid. And...
Yeah, you just get commercials for that shit, and now we have some of the most popular cereals are literal cookies or literal Oreo O's or literal Reese's candy.
Like literal daily values of sugar. Yeah,
like it's just like, oh, this is like 80 to 90% of one bowl. Is then I'm like, motherfucker, I eat like 3 bowls of cereal if I eat cereal. Like, I'm like, I'm going to eat way more than just the one bowl of the pour into that. I'm like, I don't, it's awful. It's all awful.
I do like cereal though. And I love, she likes great. So, the one person who's gonna be fine with cereal is like fucking Maisie because you're like, I already like the shitty tasting stuff. I eat grape nuts. Did your parents force you? No, I did my own volition. It's like,
I mean, the healthiest cereal I've ever eaten in my life is Cheerios. That's the healthiest I can get.
And it's not even that healthy.
It's not that healthy, and I'm also
it has some benefits, but
I'm still
not pretend.
mad to this day that they made Frosted Cheerios the hardest fucking thing to find in the world. While there's chocolate peanut butter Cheerios, I'm like, I can't just have the frosted ones.
Have you ever had regular Cheerios with sliced bananas in the cereal?
Why would I put fruit in it?
Why
would I put fruit in my cereal?
Well, because it's good.
But I just want my sugar. I don't want fruit.
Oh, I mean, that's fair. But I mean, well,
I also don't really eat fruit if you haven't ever noticed.
You should probably eat more healthy.
Am I still alive?
Yeah, barely, because I was there one time when...
That didn't have anything to do with things I ate. It had to do with things I drank. Okay?
There's a difference.
Or stress, because I'm poor. So I guess that's... So guess what? And also, guess what? It's a good point, Sean. My kidney stone would have been really, good for the fact that I would have then, had a hospital bill to take, or a urgent care bill.
Yeah,
because of my poor shitty diet. So thank you. You made my point for me.
Wait, no, I made my point.
No, you made my point for me. Is that if we're gonna eat shitty, like I eat shitty, then we're all gonna die and have hospital bills. Then we're gonna also get charged. So we save money in the short term for a long-term massive bill. Man,
that's bleak. Being like, I'm gonna die, and then my massive hospital bills just go to like my next of kin. Or
that's
whatever.
What student loans are. If you die, at least you get rid of them.
I'm telling you, that's what I'm saying. It's crazy. I already agree. I don't know with what, but I believe you.
I think they're doing Raisin Bran as cereal for dinner tomorrow night. That's now your plan.
Oh, so sure, man. I do like Raisin Bran. That's fine. I do like Raisin Bran.
Do you want to have a challenge to see how many days in a row we can possibly eat cereal before we get incredibly sick of it?
No, because that's like the what was that? Super Size Me, and he like had to stop because he was like, "You're gonna die."
Well, me and you can just agree on a cereal, and we'll just keep eating it every day, and we'll take a picture of every one of our meals, and we'll see who cracks first. It'll be you. I'll win.
I don't know if I'm gonna crack because I ate cereal every day, like my entirety of growing up.
For every meal?
But I just don't know. Well, no. Oh, you're saying every meal?
Every meal.
Why would I want to do
No, only dinner. We're going to go with the Kellogg's premise here.
Why would I want to do that?
Because Mr. Kellogg told us to.
Is it like $1 million that we're betting and it's going to change my life if we...
Do you think I have $1 million if I'm going to eat cereal every fucking night?
Well, I don't know.
Why the fuck would I have that money?
To Cody's earlier point, by the way, I'm not really a socialist by almost any means, but I do... When I see Bernie Sanders ranting about the 1% of 1%, and I think to myself, like, okay, like Bernie's been beating the same drum for a long time, and unfortunately he got drowned out back in 2016 in particular. But when you look at the distribution of wealth in America, especially at the top part of the curve, it's pretty startling, to say the least, about how much wealth there is at the top. So like we think about the 1%, as Dave is here, so he may be able to talk.
Speaking of 1%.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? Just say hi, Dave, so we can see if you're here.
Hello, good sirs.
Oh,
it's
disembodied voice Dave is creepy.
I will.
He's like
I'll
God
get his video
now.
in a minute because I need to bring him in.
I want Dave to be like,
Actually,
I pre-ordered Pokemon Legends.
work?
I have stock in Wendy's. I eat cereal every day
And
already.
Mr. Kellogg
He
is
is?
my cousin.
And we
Mr.
heard the
Kellogg
Dave. Very
did
good.
the-
Thank you.
Mr. Kellogg is my son's godfather.
That would be weird. Mr. Kellogg, the original Mr. Kellogg had a lot of weird ideas back in like the early 1900s about human bodies and things. And it's not good. I don't know if you've ever read about that stuff. It's
What
not
stuff? Cereal or like different stuff?
No.
I appreciate the comment. That's
Different
funny.
stuff.
Interesting.
To put it out there, by the way, I didn't defend my point because Dave interrupted me, which is fine. I hadn't even been talking for 10 minutes, and now here comes Dave.
Sorry.
The idea being, like, it comes across as especially tone deaf when I don't know what the Kellogg CEO makes per year, but we have to assume it is millions, plural. I think pretty safely, right? It's a huge company, Kellogg's. So that's why it's not just him saying that, given his own wealth. It's also him doing it with this sort of weird smile, as if he's happy about it. I don't think it solves everything if he takes a serious and more somber tone, but I feel like it helps a little bit when it's not like, hey, are you poor? Eat cereal for dinner. If it's at least like, hey, if you're struggling right now, I mean, I know this is going to sound silly, but sometimes cereal can be something you can do. I feel like that message is very different, but this one was kind of like, haha, it's great. People are getting more poor. Eat cereal.
Well, if he also is just like, hey, I know everyone's struggling here at Kellogg. We need to cut our prices back because we should do our part in some way to help people in the tiniest way. I'd fucking take that and I wouldn't shit all over it. Be like, it's like, hey, if you want to eat our cereal more, you should do that. But also, maybe we should drop our prices like 50 cents fucking per box and take a little bit less of a profit. I'm still going to think his take is stupid, but I'm like, all right, at least you're on some tiny little level doing something to help people who don't have the money to actually eat food that's probably better for them.
Also, like, is he eating cereal every meal? Because I would like to see like an
No.
MTV.
No, that
Cribs.
motherfucker's got the
I would like to see an
Succession level napkin over the head eating the fucking Ortolan bird shit.
To be clear, I'm asking the question knowing he's not eating cereal, just for the fucking record.
Yeah,
Because everybody's like, "No, Sean, you idiot!" It's like, yeah, I mean, I figured as a millionaire he's not, but
You might be an idiot. I don't know.
Is foie gras
it
a
was-
cereal? Because
It was an in-depth question, Sean. You're really having the hard-hitting questions that we've got.
yeah, I guess so. I mean, maybe MTV Cribs where they show us his house, and that's probably a comment that dates me more than anything is mentioning MTV Cribs. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't think
Peter says the CEO makes $5 million a year, by the way. And then
that's pretty nice.
I think Nick is just crafting fan fiction for Mr. Kellogg, which I appreciate. Because...
Nope, that's true. That's 100% true. That has to be fan fiction.
Wait, so they'll masturbate less if they eat plain bran flake. Don't do raisin bran. That can actually have an adverse effect.
Well, I assume it's because plain bran flakes are so terrible that you lose the will to live and experience any emotions or feelings that's masturbation among many other things, right?
If you're horny, eat bran flakes, and that'll kill that real quick.
Right, it's like thinking of your grandma, except a food version.
Yeah.
In addition, Mr. Kellogg is the reason that generally Americans are circumcised, not just Jewish people.
Come on, that cannot be just one guy.
It is a big reason. Yes. It is
how?
a weird story.
Tell me how.
Because of what was going on in the early 1900s. And I don't remember every detail about it because I learned about it a while ago. But basically, he was like, people have to stop masturbating, and that's how they're going to do it. It's like, well, I don't think it worked, buddy. Sorry.
Why was he so against masturbate? What was his deal, do you think?
He was just very much a very Puritan type of, sex is evil type of person.
Sean, do you have any idea how many people in America are sex is evil and then we need to end all sex in every way?
I know, but
it's a whole political party.
But this
basically.
is like this guy's entire vendetta. I've heard two things now. Both were against masturbating.
But statistically, I mean, one of these nut jobs had ended up in some kind of high position of power, and it turns out it was Mr. Kellogg.
Mr. Kellogg.
This man's name is not actually Mr. Kellogg, right? I just started calling him that. Like, this is not still somehow in the Kellogg family in any way.
It's like J.D. Kellogg, I believe, is his name.
Yeah, it's like Henry Ford or anything else. You have the business named after you because
they get the Kellogg name.
It's the ultimate vanity to have it named after yourself.
All the time.
No, Mr. Kellogg.
Yep. Sorry,
Mr. Kellogg, please.
John Harvey Kellogg. So I was close on the J part.
Oh, well, great.
H. Kellogg, yeah.
Okay.
Well, we've had great audience participation so far. Let's turn it off by talking about the NBA.
Cool. How exciting.
This is more so about the fundamental state of the sport and refereeing. If you have not yet seen the clips from last night's game between the Knicks and the Pistons, I encourage you just to do a quick search for them. You'll find the clip. It's only like 20 seconds. Just go watch it. And I want you to do that. I'm saying this now so that I'm not leading the witness when it comes time for you to see it. Because by the time I give this introduction, you could have watched the clip. So go see it right now. Knicks Pistons. At the end of last night's game, a circus show of a possession broke out where there was like multiple loose balls and tips and rebounds and a save from out of bounds. And at one point, somebody essentially got like tackled as though they were a running back and a linebacker was coming into the flat and took their legs out. And there was no call.
Football, yeah.
And Monty Williams, who we're familiar with as Suns fans, was probably the most irate I've ever seen. And, Monty kind of just stood there lifelessly on the sideline while everything was happening to us over the course of the Suns. Multiple meltdowns in the playoffs. Let's not talk about them. But he was livid on the court. He was livid in the post-game press conference. And when you watch the video, it's hard to argue with him, especially when then Jalen Duren gets a foul called on him for going vertical on the contest after Dante DiVincenzo murders one of the Piston players. And then they get a ticky-tack foul called for an and one. This is all in crunch time. So this is all being brought up to talk about one main point in particular, which is inconsistency of reffing as a bigger and bigger thing holding back the NBA from becoming America's sport.
Well, I think, maybe. I think it's huge. If I understood your question, I think probably football being so popular is probably the biggest hurdle. But the problem is it's supposed to be unbiased. And yet there is an inherent allowed bias to go on in the NBA. And we know that there is. It's pretty accepted makeup calls, for example. Now, I don't know if the refs, they're never going to come out and say, yeah, that was a makeup call for the previous thing. But, we see it all the time. Oh, it's a makeup call. We missed one. Now we're going to call it. We see, they don't call the game the same in crunch time. There are these things that, we all know. And it's really what we got to do is take out the bias. And we decide what constitutes a foul. And I know the game is fast and I know it's hard, but when you see it, you call it. When you're taking 4 steps for a layup, and I know you're in the wide open court and I know it doesn't matter, you got to call that a travel. You can't just let that go. It's fucking stupid. And people are going to Instagram that for years later as one of the worst calls. You're never going to let it go. It's easy to spot. It's probably one of the more obvious things. You just got to be consistent.
what bothers me, and I agree with you as far as the consistency goes, and it is highlighted especially in the Twitter, X, YouTube, Instagram era of the, oh, well, you got to earn the respect to get the whistle. No, you fucking don't.
Yep.
I hate that argument where it's like, oh, well, you got to earn the respect of the refs to get the whistle. No, if you get fouled, it's a foul. And the problem is this got bastardized a bit by people like James Harden and Trae Young, I believe, who foul baited and turned it into, well, yeah, we got to call that by the letter of the law, when James Harden is literally kicking people in the nuts and getting a foul called for him instead of on him. Now, they have made some rule changes about that, but they've made it very difficult to properly call fouls in this league because of the amount of rule changes and things that referees have to look for. Now, these are the best referees in the world. They have to be good at it and they have to get it right. But it is difficult to that extent. And so I don't know what the right way of going about it is, because it is a very difficult sport to officiate.
I just worry that with sports betting, which, yes, it's going to become the most talked about topic on this show, given 3.5 of the 4 of us here, that we're heading towards a slippery slope of disaster. Because if you, for some reason, had, let's say, $250,000 on the Pistons just to win, no spread, no whatever last night, and that a call of that magnitude, which was admitted as an incorrect call in the 2-minute report today, for all the fucking good that does, but the league was like, yeah, no, we fucked up. You can't tackle somebody in the knees and break their legs. That's a foul. We should have called that. Whoops. If something like that goes against you and you have serious money on this, where do we go eventually where it's like, okay, look, it seems silly for me to suggest that it's like, oh yeah, maybe that ref's going to have his kneecaps broken behind the scenes. But when we start involving 6-7 figures in sports betting, and it's the specter that looms over every professional sport, I think this deserves even greater scrutiny than it does just from a fan perspective. It should not matter at all. It should only come down to what's right for the sport. But now I feel like we're in danger zone because there's so many more eyes on games that wouldn't otherwise have them, that we're heading towards a real disaster sooner than later.
I think we probably have to expand. Ideally, the refs just get better. It sounds like they did not miss a hard call on this one. We probably need to expand the rules of review, right? And I know more review just slows down the game. And we've talked about how when you slow things down, all of a sudden everything is a foul because they happen so much in the game. So things that by the eye, you're like, yeah, that's fine. When you slow it down, it looks egregious. But I know right now the rules, I believe that if there's no call, you can't challenge it even.
Yep.
So, that seems like a pretty simple thing. It's if you feel like something was missed, you can challenge it. Maybe that's a somewhat easy thing. And then you can loop in the challenge rules. And it's look, Monty, I know you're upset and it was a bad call and we should have called it. You blew your challenge earlier. So, we give those to you. You used them before. You're not out. I'm sorry. That at some point there is some human error that's going to happen. But right now we have no mechanism, and it just looks fucking terrible.
Well, how do you challenge a play that has occurred and then not been called, and then another play occurred afterward? There's no way of going back.
Hockey
what are you
does
gonna
it.
do? Go back and say, what's that?
Hockey does it.
How do they? How do they do
apparently
that?
the NBA does, because we've seen at least 2 different times this season where a minute or two after a play has stopped, a call has been overturned now.
Yep.
Which is infuriating because I thought you couldn't do that.
Right, because Dave, your point is correct, I think, in a traditional sense, but more and more we're now seeing that sneakily the Booth and Sakakis can be like, oh, actually, that person's foot was on the line, so that's a 2 instead of a 3. That was not called live. There is no call, technically, and the refs didn't even look to review it in real time. They do that in advance of crunch time so that there's a correct score, so I understand it. But at the same time, it's then where do we draw that line? Because if the thing's about getting the call right, I got to be honest, there's an increasing part of me that is fuck it, give unlimited challenges if you succeed. So you're still walking, you're still walking a line. If you blow it because one of your players is like, no, you got to challenge, and they're wrong, and you decide to go with them, then you're done for the game. But if you keep pointing out flaws, because we've seen, the last game, the Suns had such an obvious out-of-bounds call. And it's not just because of my view from the TV. It's it clearly hit off of this other team's player. There's no one else within 3 feet. And the Suns have to burn a challenge to overturn that. And I'm then if that's going to be the case, unlimited till you fuck it up.
And I love that because it's well, Chris, we're now on our 10th challenge of the game. How much are we going to slow the game down? And it's well, the refs have messed up the previous 9 calls.
Exactly.
So I guess it'll speed up when the refs start getting the calls right. Maybe that's it. I'd be down for that. I think it sounds great.
Now, the referees union won't be, to be very clear, so this will not happen to that extent.
I don't think there's a union I hate more than the fucking refs union.
Sean's union.
Give me a
now.
fucking break.
Shit.
Oh, I guess that does imply that I hate like all unions, but no, I really just
I hate
refs.
all unions, but the one I hate the most.
that's true. I really just hate refs.
To Chris's point is, and I don't know if we'll ever get to this thing, but because the government always threatens it when they get worked to about shit. I am really curious as sports gambling takes over more and more regular people are getting fucked out of their money that they should have won, although another half of those people are probably making money off of it, how much the government starts to come at antitrust lawsuit type of things. Because all these leagues have antitrust exemptions and they get to hide their books and hide all this shit over and over again. And at a certain point, if you as a league are enabling people to lose significant money on, again, entities you are behind. It's not like the sports leagues are being like, fuck, sports gambling's legal, we don't want any part of this. No, they're all fucking partnered with all kinds of different companies. So you can't be partnered with these companies, like as the official sports book of the league. You can't run commercials. You can't have your fucking athletes be in these commercials or whatever, or not, I guess not the athletes, but whatever the fuck it is. You can't build this relationship and then have officiating that is so poor that your product doesn't seem on the up and up as you're taking in gambling money and gambling dollars from those sponsorships. At a certain point, while the government across so many states has legalized sports gambling, I just wouldn't be shocked if one day we start getting more threats of the antitrust exemptions being pulled because the NBA is not taking care of the actual general public. And as much as that sounds fucking insane, the government needs to get involved. If it starts affecting a disproportionate amount of people who are losing money on games that are not on the up and up and start to look shady, especially in the NBA of all fucking leagues, by the way, to have this issue, I wouldn't be shocked if that's what it's probably years away, but that could be in the future of things that might happen.
How many leagues in the last 20, 30 years have had ref scandals proven to have happened?
I think only the NBA.
That's my understanding.
Which is shocking. I mean, the NFL should be the easiest thing in the fucking world to rig, by the way, with how many officials are on the field and the shit you can do because things are all judgment calls anyway. I'm shocked we haven't had one there. I don't believe for a second that there haven't been referees that have been paid off,
not to mention the NFL, so many of them are judgment calls, and so many of them the normal populace doesn't understand what an actual penalty is. It's so easy in the NFL to be like, oh yeah, well, illegal formation, and no one will have a fucking clue what that actually
exactly
means.
I mean, there's holding on every other play in the NFL on the offensive line. I sit there and fucking whine about it all the time, and I'm like, just outlaw holding. Holding's fine as long as you don't grab someone's fucking face.
But then I go back to the Lakers at one point in the season getting the most foul calls, and LeBron being like, we're just an attacking team. You're like, okay, but all the cameras in the arena are saying you actually drive it like less than anybody else, but you're getting the most calls. So explain that to me.
And cycling back all the way to the two teams that are involved in this call, I assume the NBA probably didn't think it'd be that big of a fucking deal because it's the worst team in the East against a playoff team. So most people just care about the playoff team winning anyway. So what does it matter if the Pistons lose another game? They've already lost 45 of them or whatever the fuck it is. I assume the league was just like, if there's going to be a fuck up, at least make it in a game where it's not the 1 seed and 2 seed of the fucking Eastern Conference playing each other. At least it's the shit Pistons and the Knicks. The bigger market team takes advantage of it. And I'm like, I don't know that that's going to work super well anymore. You can't hide shit like that when everything that we have going on. And again, social media, sports gambling, everyone's going to care about every call in every fucking game, no matter how bad the team that suffered it is.
And I don't know where you draw this line, but regardless of where we go with unlimited challenge or whatever it is, if there's something so egregious, it just seems like, how can you not just be like, we fucked up? Like, how is there no mechanism at all when someone gets blatantly tackled that you can, and maybe it's a slippery slope and whatever, but it's like, it feels like it should be a way to just fix that call.
And again, the crutch, everyone is like, well, games will take too long. I'm like, I don't give a fuck how long it takes if you get it right.
Yeah.
Just fucking do it right.
Yeah. And to Sean's earlier point, again, I feel for the refs to a certain extent because, as Dave said, this is extremely difficult. It's maybe the fastest sport, or at least the thing where the most decisions are happening in the shortest amount of time.
Yeah.
I understand it. I do want to sympathize with that. However, if it's going to extend because of mistakes everywhere, then that should incentivize the NBA to make the product and the referees the best they can be. And maybe they already have the best they can be, and it's more of a training issue or more of changing how things are called. Hell, there's talk today about the league looking at what we talked about a couple weeks ago, which is the just rampancy of offense and maybe looking to do something with defense. Probably not even by next season, but if they get rid of the illegal defense, that's one less thing refs have to keep an eye on, so that frees them up to be more locked in on block or charge calls or whatever, right? There's ways to at least make inroads on it. So, yeah, they're not going to go with a challenge till you die system, I don't think. It took us a while just to go from 1 to 2. But something, because at the end of the day, I'd rather sit through a review slog. Like, look, I think back to the Clippers and Suns playoff series a couple of years back, and we had a fourth quarter that took an actual fucking hour because the last 2 minutes in particular lasted 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. But at least they reviewed everything, and I didn't walk out of that going, well, that call was wrong, and no effort was made to overturn it.
Yeah. And then the casual fan is like, it's taking too long. And I'm like, fuck you. I don't give a shit what you think. You don't even care about these teams. Why don't you let me, a fan of the team, look, if it's fucking New York and Detroit, I won't get on my head. Like, we'll let the New York fans get all upset. Don't fucking come to me.
Or the Detroit fans.
Yeah, some casual piece of shit being like, oh, the Suns Clippers took too long. It's like, fuck off.
It's the casuals that matter, though. It's the casuals that matter to the league because they're the extra eyeballs. You're watching no matter what. That's the thing.
We'll see how the league does when all they have is the casuals.
I mean, that's what baseball is reconciling with, is all the people who, like me, have watched baseball and will always watch baseball, and you're changing the rules. And I'm like, I don't know, these kind of suck. And every other casual person, like, my fiance is like, oh, baseball's more fun now because it only takes an hour and a half to fucking play a game. And I'm like, yeah, you're the fucking problem.
Yeah, and I don't know where I fall on it in the NBA because I think on the one hand, Dave is right in part, but on the other hand, the same casuals would be like, everybody travels. There's way too much offense. There's no skill. You just jack up a bunch of threes. Like, those casual takes, some of them aren't even true, and some of them could be corrected. If you crack down on travel-ins, the casual fan might be like, oh, cool, you can't take 6 steps from half court anymore to make a dunk. Maybe I'll tune in more. It could work both ways. I think it does, in general, a game that takes 50% longer definitely hampers casuals more than it helps. But at the end of the day, it's the hardcore fans that are going to pour money into your sport. They're the ones who are going to buy tickets that are season tickets and not just once a season to show up.
Yeah.
And like you said, Dave's right with like these refs have to make a lot of decisions. But the call where all of us are whining about right now is like, well, that wasn't that was this wasn't like, did he graze his arm on the shot and foul? Again, nitpicking all that stuff, just like football, just like baseball, just like hockey. Like, you can't boil it down to where everything needs to be slowed down to like 1/100th of it all. That's right. A guy running into a guy's legs and knocking him out of bounds and tackling him. I mean, you're not asking for much for some accountability with that type of a call also.
I mean, I wonder, I know there's oversight and I know there's like grading of referees and things like that. But I mean, are we going to go back to the level of, are we going to go to a level of like suspensions for referees who miss blatant level calls like that? Maybe that's the type of governing board we need of referees to be like, look, I was taught when I've refereed, and I was taught before, if there's a pileup, as they called them, if there's chaos on the floor, you have to make a call somehow, some way. I don't care what you call, you have to call something. That was chaos on the floor. Someone tackled somebody. There's got to be a call. I don't care what it is. There's got to be a call.
Like, imagine that leads to an injury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I look at the Trae Young one. There was no foul called on that, right? And there was an injury. So.
Yeah, I guess.
Bring back hand checking.
Yeah, Jaguar says hand checking. We're all for it. We talked about it when we said, well, how we could maybe improve the NBA because scoring's gotten a little too out of control. And look, at the end of the day, I mean, you're right. A lot of these are 50-50 calls. The ones that are the most blatant, I would like to think there's something that can be done, even if there is a no call, to get it right, to make the right call at the end of the day. Because look, right now, it's too strong to say it's because of referee incompetence. Referees are good at what they do overall. But God forbid that it's like the best case scenario is incompetence in that moment. Mm-hmm. Because if the other alternative is that I think the ref has been paid off not to blow a whistle in a situation like that where something blatant happens, now we've lost the integrity of the sport.
Well, that's a really stupid referee to wait until... If I'm fixing a game, I'm not going to wait until the fucking obvious thing to not blow my whistle. I'm going to try to do my work somewhere else.
That's the old Tim Donaghy. That was what Tim Donaghy did, is the foul calls in the third quarter when everyone's running the other direction already, and then you call the shooting foul. God, I remember that one in particular.
I mean, in terms of like accountability, like the NFL probably made the best example of this recently is when the officiating crew fucked up the end of the Cowboys-Lions game during the regular season. That officiating crew was removed from the postseason consideration. They didn't get the ref in the playoffs because they fucked up very clearly. Fucked up the stupid, very hyper-specific, no one gives a shit NFL rule of reporting when you're eligible and all this crap. That really, really just, as a rule that's made, it didn't exist because NFL players are fucking morons and can't look at the line like I got taught in 10th grade on how to recognize who's eligible. But they removed that refereeing crew because of that exact reason. It's like, then that's a big financial hit, I'm pretty sure, for people who are not like NFL officials are not full-time officials. They have like regular day jobs, crazy enough, or at least they used to. And having that removal from the playoffs is a big hit to what you're making money off of, and the assignments you're getting. It's a fucking black mark on your record.
And it sucks. But if I'd like dropped the F-bomb in the middle of a presentation at work, I think my boss is going to hesitate, being like, "Yeah, I'm going to sign you up for another presentation tomorrow. We might need to build you back up because you said fuck in the middle of the presentation to the executive board."
Because these are it's the simplistic things that are fucked up. That's like, maybe we need to punish you a little bit, because it's not like you didn't catch that very tic-tacky type call. It's like, no, man, no one expects you to be able to do that. That fucking sucks. That's the hard part of your job. But also maybe get like the basics of your job right. Again, I'm a fucking newspaper writer and I get something factually wrong. We might get sued. There's some repercussions to me doing my job fucking wrong. And sometimes everyone's like, yeah, but their job's so hard. I'm like, no, everyone should have some kind of repercussion if you totally fucking butcher your job.
And I do believe that some of these happen behind the scenes, that they're not made public, that there are reprimands, that there are even sometimes, suspensions or whatever that we don't always know about because they don't want the refs to look bad in the public. But like Angel Hernandez had a 30-year MLB career and kept working World Series games despite being widely known in the game and out as the worst fucking umpire in baseball.
The union, but the union protected him. To Sean's
I know.
point.
So it's like sometimes you don't always know that the justice is being meted out, even when it should be.
Down with the unions across the board. No,
anti-capitalist, anti-union, talked about kids and masturbation and circumcision. Headlines spiraled out of control this week.
They did. I just want to back up with reffing. I know we got to wrap this up, but so we said like hand checks, and I'm like, I almost want to back up even more and figure out a way to like go back to basics on reffing so that I know. And I'm only bringing this up because it sticks out of my head. There was a call. Nurkic blocks LeBron, and I was like thinking, 90% of the time that is a foul. So I'm so happy it's not. But I don't understand why, and not understanding when is something a foul and when it is not. And I go back to the brother, the Mason Plumlee. We had him on our team, and he was so good at going straight up, and he hardly ever got the calls against him. I mean, he did it really well, and it's like maybe like going back to the basics. If you go straight up on the defense, you're not going to call for that foul. If you're reaching in, don't do that. You're going to get called, even if sometimes like it's clean, and we just. Like, back it up. Dave, you've refed. How impossible is this ask that I'm making? Great. Now he's frozen, and we're never going to
the fucking referee union stopped Jet.
Yeah. They're like, and you got to cancel. We know that he was the one talking about unions, but cancel the other guy.
Big ref shutting down Dave, although his frame did update briefly.
It did for a second. Dave, can you talk? No.
Well, he died. I guess I'll just have to cut him off. And just to wrap up with Jackrock's point, like they're putting more and more on the refs' plate with the evolution of the rules. Their jobs are harder and harder to do well. I think that's true to an extent. And it kind of goes to the root of what Sean was talking about in just the sense that it's like, in the NBA in particular, like it's become so hard when the offensive player generates the contact to call that fairly. It's almost always a defensive foul now. We've seen some of the examples about it. Ryan Russillo was talking about it a couple weeks ago. A drive where you go at an angle that's not even going to the rim to run into a defender, but because the defender isn't set, it's a defensive foul. If we can take out some of that stuff, look, the players are always going to try and get every little angle they can. Chris Paul was the king of that, but there's plenty of others. But if we can simplify some of the rules to the point where it's like, what passes the eye test? What does that look like it's a foul on? And maybe that's going to help. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I started to say, I don't know if it came through. Probably.
No, nothing came through. You froze.
Cool. Awesome. Good. So I was saying, I honestly think the fact that they are putting more and more on the ref's plate with the evolution of the rules, it is harder, and the sense that we need to go back to actually allowing refs to have judgment and just use judgment instead of having to follow a very specific set of rules to be able to define, well, because he crossed into the plane, therefore XYZ. Like, I think saying yeah, it was a foul. I don't know. It feels like that's almost the going back to basics that you're talking about.
Well, I mean, I think you're right, and that is a good point, but then you run into this New York call where it's like, yeah, my gut told me there was no foul. It's like, but a man was tackled.
I didn't want a foul call to decide the game. It's like, well, he broke his kneecap, but, besides that, you're right. You did make a judgment call.
I think he brought a baseball bat to the court. It's like, well, you just don't call those at the end. Everybody knows it.
I know. And there, that's not a great solution, but there's some things that just, when the foul baiting was happening before, it was the worst, where it was like, yeah, that's a foul by the rules, even though, Harden was sticking his leg out this far and someone ran into it. It's like the referee was like neutered almost, in a sense, where like, this is ridiculous, but I have to call it because that's the way the foul is.
Can we also fix the gather? Can we just fix the gather dribble? Can we just which has allowed so much of Harden's bullshit? For 4 steps for this. Can we, there seems like easy things to fix. That's just me. Old Puritan Sean.
Yep. So that's headlines.
You're just like Kellogg.
It's no longer confined to a single segment. And just like Time Capsule, we've now evolved as a podcast to where we're not just trying to cram it into 15 minutes and we're like, oh God, we're going to run out of things to say. We don't often run out of things to say anymore. We can just carry a discussion. So now
too much.
I can find 3 or 4 headlines and it spins into an hour, and we could have easily had more to say about all of them, especially with Dave missing the first couple. There was plenty more legs. So that's the benefit of the podcast in 2024. We're never hurting for topics.
You also picked really good topics. I'm just going to have to give you credit for that.
We got to have Buzzer Buzzsaw, which is...
No.
We got to have Cody
Not a thing.
do that one.
Not a thing.
It wasn't.
Well, do I get to kill you with a saw?
I'll explain it later. We're over time.
That's true. We are over time. We have to go play Game 7 now. It's
We're just
going
running out
to
of time.
be a disaster. But, what is this buzzer? I don't know. It's been since 2017 since that name mattered, so it's a good question. But that is the end of this episode. We will be back next week with another show as well. In between episodes, you can find us at grayareas.live or at grayareaslive on YouTube, on Facebook, and maybe eventually Twitter. We will see you next time.
Apparently,